With the final season of My Brilliant Friend, what we're given, even with 2 additional episodes, unfortunately feels very rushed to the point of thinking they just wanted to cover the last book without allowing us to get acclimated to the new actors or really get a full sense of not only what they can give to the characters, but also the world as it changes. So to summarize the season, Elena is back under the influence of Nino, and she spends years of her life choosing him over her oldest children, Dede and Elsa, throws away her marriage to Pietro, and pretty much puts her career on ice. And while she does still have some form of a career, there's still interest in what's next from her, unfortunately, it seems in duty to this man, everything else is secondary. Fortunately for her, while she might be in a struggle a bit, Leela's doing fine. She has computer software that has become the envy of the neighborhood. It's making her a lot of money, and it's also giving her the type of influence and power that formerly only the Solaris had. But as Elena finds herself kind of gravitating back to the neighborhood, the sort of frenemies come back into each other's circle, and with that, you see that same bond that has allowed them to navigate what for both has been a rather tumultuous life and seemingly find a balance that may not allow them to permanently be in a good space, but at least always have somebody who not only can provide them comfort, but also hold them accountable and challenge them. So, getting to the review portion, the highlight, honestly, the sole highlight for me, is Leela, and that's because on top of the new actress picking up where the last one kind of left off and just kind of continuing what they gave us, at the same time, and you really have to credit the casting, there's still that ability to have Leela be that character who can give you a look that either makes you feel like you're one of the greatest people or else that you ain't nothing. And then when it comes to her arc this season, between her sort of Cold War to Solaris, how she's using Alfonso, who is seemingly an effeminate gay man, and how she's kind of making him a proxy in this war, and even how she tries to use Elena as a proxy, you see a character who, at her height this season, as much as you recognize that she's taking on a few cruel approaches in her war, at the same time, you never lose your love and interest in this character. She remains the most engaging person on screen. And I would even add, as we've seen with past seasons, it's really because of Leela that Elena is even interesting, or it can be considered the one who is the brilliant friend that the show talks about, for it becomes very clear that Leela, who hasn't had as much opportunities or support, especially consistent support as Elena, she's still that person who, because of her own competitiveness, she pushes Elena to be better. She makes it so that the two have to be seen as some kind of equals, even without having the same societal expectations, benefits, or outlook, whatever you want to call it. And truly, there is no My Brilliant Friend without Leela. And in order to really appreciate Elena, you have to, again, look at what Leela pushes her to do, especially when it comes to getting out of that stupor she often is in when it comes to whatever guy is giving her the most attention at any given moment, especially if it's Nino. But unfortunately, that's the only highlight. The rest of it's kind of low points or on the fence, with the first low point being that after spending 3 seasons with Elena and Leela being played by other actors, to now be thrust into not only having new people play Leela and Elena, but most of the characters we know also getting different actors playing them. Yes, there's no denying that when it comes to casting, you can see kind of an age progression that makes sense for most people, but at the same time, there's this feeling that these actors didn't really get to own these characters. They were either continuing where the last person left off and just trying to help finish the story, or else it's a real case of, and we'll go into that a bit in on the fence portion, where you may feel like these people who don't deliver bad performances at all, but still just give you the sense that they're just helping to finish the story rather than really end this on a high note, worthy of the experience we've been on for, I think, 2 to 4 years. The next low point for us is just growing tired of Elena in general, but also her self-imposed misery. For it takes almost 6 episodes for Elena to finally rid herself of Nino, and it's excruciating to watch. The back and forth, her wanting to forgive Nino making it clear that she's a mistress and probably won't be much more than that. The more you watch her kind of diminish herself for this man who clearly is just using her as a trophy, the harder it gets to really appreciate or even like her character. And even after episode 6 and the events that happen in that one, Elena doesn't figure out a way to make a comeback. Instead, she becomes what she's always been, and she's just somebody that has stuff happen to her, or else she observes things, and she's lucky enough to experience it with just enough of a distance where even if she gets hurt, like what happened with Nino's father, she lives to tell the tale and benefits in some way from it, even if it's in the form of writing a book. And with that, you realize there really is not that much to Elena worth really getting invested in, besides her being your medium to far more interesting stories. Which leads on the fence topic, and that is the stories we're given. When it comes to this season, and maybe this is kind of the problem with having a show that releases a new season every 2 some odd years and only has 8 episodes, but the nostalgia or the sense that things were better in the past really hits when it comes to this season, because it doesn't feel like you get to really sit and experience the changes that are happening with each character or even a neighborhood. Like the neighborhood is having a drug epidemic issue because of the Solaras. There's then an issue of what's happening in individual lives, which feels like things are rushed so much that you can't really see the rise and the fall of characters. Like, for example, with Leela, who clearly is our favorite character, her rise to being this mega influence, because, this story is more about Elena, what she knows from her perspective than Leela's. You don't get to see that rise, you just see her at top. And then when there's the fall, it's dramatic and quick, but not in a way that's entertaining. It's dramatic and quick, like they needed to hit certain points and hit certain storylines, and even if they can't fully develop or flesh it out, they have to at least make sure it's mentioned, so that for people who actually read the book, they're like, okay, we mentioned that. You can't get mad at us. We didn't go deep into it. We didn't go into the certain emotions and feelings and really allow these actors to cook. But we did acknowledge certain events that had to be done. And again, it just feels like so often with this season that you get the Cliff Notes version of the book. And granted, for most book adaptations, that's probably what you're getting. And then you add in some creative liberties done through the director and writers that add on to it. But considering how good things have been up till now, and now things just kind of feel speedy and crash out, it reminds me too much of what happened with Bel Air with this latest season. But this is a book that has acclaim, but I keep forgetting that oftentimes, whether it's a show or a book, landing that final entry into the franchise or series is usually not easily done. And maybe I should just accept that when it comes to My Brilliant Friend. Yes, first, second, even third season were great, but unfortunately it didn't stick the landing. Which is why overall, we're kind of mixed about this season, for between not really getting a chance to get acclimated to the new actors or what phases their characters' lives are in. The final season of My Brilliant Friend feels rushed in a worse way, and again, ultimately just feels like it had to hit certain main points of the story, and because it was so focused on hitting these certain things or moments, it didn't allow you to, after 1 or 2 years of waiting, fall in love with these characters all over again, fall in love with their worlds all over again, and instead, you just kind of go through the motions to see how it's going to end.